Bride of Frankenstein.
What a long wind up. Yes, it's hard to transition out of the Nazi movie into this, which is a pretty silly movie. But
Yes, but
uh
also like a lot of things. We'll get into it.
so yeah, this is James Whale's reluctant return to Frankenstein.
But oh boy, what a picture this is.
Mhm.
This was a movie that I think I had never seen it before watching it for this show, and it was always one of those things that it was like, oh, Bride of Frankenstein is like a masterpiece. Like you gotta check it out. Like it's way better than the original one. Yada yada yada. And I'm like, really? Like I don't know. I've seen like the clips of it and things, and it seems kind of silly. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like sure, I'll check it out. And it was always this sort of thing where it's like, oh, that movie is like so good. And I'm like, we'll see. And then I
Yeah.
watched it and I was like, no, they were correct. This movie is great.
This is maybe it's unclear to me like how much of this movie was made with the production code in mind.
Mm.
There was a quote from James Whale being kind of like warned about all of the deaths in it. There were originally 21 deaths in the movie, and they were cut down to 10 because James Whale said, "Kill them all and let Breen sort it out." Breen being the guy who is enforcing the
Yeah.
production code. So it's like I don't know how much of this movie was made with the code in mind, but it is much lighter of a film than the original Frankenstein. Like I think it's
I mean,
overwhelmingly
yeah.
campy and silly, right?
Well, I don't know, well, that brings up the question of like, can camp be intentional, or does that ruin it? I don't think
know.
this movie is necessarily intentionally silly, but I
think
do
it
think
is.
you think so. I think it's intentionally like sort of melodramatic, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like operatic, maybe in a sense, where it's like it's very. I think it's leaning even more into kind of like expressionism and kind of like that kind of filmmaking than the first Frankenstein movie.
Yeah, it definitely it has more of a control of imagery than the first Frankenstein movie. More thoughtfully put together, I think.
But I also think this movie is like weirdly kind of a better adaptation of the book Frankenstein than the first movie. Like a lot of the big scenes in this movie are taken from, and the entire concept of this movie is taken from the book.
And it also has Mary Shelley herself in the
that
movie
too,
talking about
which
Frankenstein.
should we just start at the beginning and kind of hit the beats?
What better a place to start than the beginning?
I do think it's funny right at the start of this movie, it does the opening, the cast credits, and Boris Karloff is just credited as Karloff. Like he's reached such heights of fame that he's a single name person now. He's just Karloff. That's
Right.
all I need to put.
And in the opening credits, it also does the same bit as they did in the original Frankenstein, where it said the monster is played by question mark.
But then it doesn't give it away. But then it's like, because Elsa Lanchester,
Worcestershire.
also plays Mary Shelley, and she is credited in the opening credits as Mary Shelley. So then it's like, oh well, okay.
Right, in this movie, it does like what says like something like the monster's bride, and then ... question mark,
which is it's a good bit. I think
it's
that's
good,
kind of
yeah.
fun. But yeah, the movie opens on this great like miniature shot of a castle. Feels very Batman Returns, and there's like a little framing device of Mary and Percy Shelley in a castle during a thunderstorm talking to Byron, and then Byron has this sort of speech where he's like, "Oh, that book that you wrote, Frankenstein, so good." Kind of almost just to, like, remind the audience, like, "Hey, remember Frankenstein? Pretty great movie, huh?" And then they're showing clips of the first movie, which is extra funny because it's like
last time on Frankenstein,
right? But Byron is recapping the movie version, which is like almost completely different from the book. So he's like, hey, Mary Shelley, remember that book that you wrote where like there was a big windmill that caught on fire? And I was like, that doesn't happen in the book, dude.
See, I haven't read the book, but this whole framing device of Mary Shelley talking about, she's like, yes, but I had some other stuff that I wanted to say about Frankenstein, you know, and then justifying its own existence by inserting a fake Mary Shelley to say I wrote this.
Yeah.
But it felt very like very just this kind of like naked trying to justify its own existence.
Right. I'm just like, look, we know that like we did this like movie had a full ending, but like just go with us here.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like there's more Mary Shelley stuff in this movie than the first Frankenstein movie, I think.
Wasn't I don't remember Mary Shelley in the first Frankenstein.
No, but
movie.
I mean just in terms of like stuff that she wrote.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Almost right away we get Una O'Connor, who was the loud old lady from The Invisible Man, is
doing
back.
her same bit here.
Same bit. James Whale loves Una O'Connor, and will just I like on one hand I kind of get it because it's like sure, but she's doing a lot, and I think this is part of what you're saying of how like this movie almost immediately feels a lot sillier.
Yeah. He wrote this part specifically for her, is what I heard.
But it's like, I feel like everyone else is doing this sort of like more kind of controlled, like, drama. This is very serious. And Una O'Connor is playing this like it is a Monty Python sketch. Is like playing it so big and so silly.
Yeah, I mean...
Which isn't bad, but it doesn't feel like it's connected with the rest of the movie so much.
There was a special feature on the Blu-ray of the original Frankenstein that had an interview with Magneto. I don't know.
Ian McKellen?
Yes, Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
I had an interview with Ian McKellen where
Magneto. Gandalf was there talking about the movie.
Yeah, and then he was talking about, because he played James Whale in the biopic Gods and Monsters, which is named after a line from this movie.
Yeah.
And he was referring to some of the work that James Whale did as camp, right? He was thinking like James, this Ian McKellen is a gay man who was playing James Whale, who was a gay man in the 30s, right? And this feels very proto camp, very proto like intentional 60s and 70s gay like silliness,
But at the same time, I also got that from it, but at the same time it doesn't feel as kind of like intentionally silly, I guess, as what I think of as camp tends to be.
It's an older version, but it's like this is a lighter movie. It's a lighter movie and less serious movie, I think, than the original Frankenstein. And like I mean, I think we're gonna get to this scene later, but there's a part where like where the monster is smoking a cigar and he goes, "Smoke good."
Yes,
it's like hilarious.
It is very funny and very silly. It's true. There's a bunch of kind of weird like retconning of the first movie, or like recasting of a lot of actors. Like the dad of the girl who gets drowned in the first movie is named Ludwig in that one, and is renamed Hans in this movie and played by a different actor who is just playing a different character, basically. Like, no, doesn't look the same, not playing a similar personality type or anything. And he like almost immediately gets murdered by the monster and he falls into a wet cave. Thankfully there was a wet cave beneath the burning windmill, so the monster was able to escape. And someone yells, "It's alive!" because they were like, we know the line that you liked from the first one.
Back.
It's very like Terminator 2, I'll be back, kind of like that thing you liked from the first movie, it's back.
Very sequel, this movie.
It is very sequel, yeah, it's true. Also, Elizabeth Frankenstein is recast. She was played by Mae Clarke in the 31 movie and is played by Valerie Hobson in this movie. One of the things that struck me about this movie right away, like in the first couple scenes, is the production design of it is gobsmackingly gorgeous.
Yeah. More adventurous camera as well.
Yeah. Lots of like dolly moves, a lot more kind of like camera movement, and just like really great lighting and sort of like set design stuff.
Hmm.
Like really leaning into the really heightened like gothic stuff. There was definitely a fair bit of that in the 31 Frankenstein movie also, but
Yeah.
it feels like it's kind of kicked up a notch here.
The sound movies looked like shittier back then.
Right, yeah.
And I think they have in the years since figured out how to make the sound movies start looking as good as a silent movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this movie kind of, it feels like it has some of that kind of like silent grandeur that was missing in a lot of the early talkies. Pretty early on we're introduced to a new character, Dr. Pretorius, which is a hell of a name.
Yeah.
Who is Dr. Frankenstein's old professor, mentor.
Yeah. Who kind of like got him inspired to start in the dark arts of
right. And I feel like
bodies.
Pretty quickly the movie's establishing like, you thought Frankenstein was crazy. Check out this guy. He's even crazier.
Well, right. Like I thought it was interesting how this movie starts with Frankenstein just being like, at the end of the original Frankenstein movie, he realizes, I have done something bad. This was not good.
Right.
I should not do this anymore.
He has this sort of redemption arc.
And the movie keeps that, right? Where he resists the call to action. Where, because Dr. Pretorius comes in, he's like, hey, you made a monster. Let's make another monster together.
Yeah.
And he spends a lot of time resisting Dr. Pretorius for all of the reasons that you have seen in the first movie until he's like kind of threatened into it.
I think there was a really interesting thing in that where it's like he's resisting it and he's saying like, no, I can't, like that's bad, no more monsters. But you can kind of see behind his eyes, he's like, I do really love making monsters so much though. Like you can see how tempting it is. He's like, I'd love science. When Dr. Pretorius reveals his menagerie of Lilliputian people, his like miniature people that he's grown from eggs in little glass jars.
Oh no, he said he grew them from seed.
I mean, I took that as, he like had a little petri dish with like, genetic material in it and grew them.
Yeah, like this. Yes, think about it.
There's a lot of talk about seed in this movie for sure.
This movie, he was like,
I don't think that it's unintentional.
I don't think so either. Like it's very ridiculous. Like he's saying like you made your monster out of bodies that already existed, and I grew mine from seed. And I'm like, ew.
I mean, that's how all people get made.
I guess that's true. Yes.
But Dr. Pretorius can't seem to get past the 3-inch margin. All his people are like the size of action figures for some reason. And he's like, I haven't cracked it. I can't make them big yet.
Yeah, and they have little high-pitched voices, and they're little scamps inside of their glass jars.
This scene is like one of the most amazing visual effects scenes of any movie up until this point. Like, it is so good.
This is the same VFX guy from Invisible Man. Yeah, it looks really good. It's a combination of rotoscoping and like black velvet background, quote unquote green screen and double exposure.
Right, but it's like it's so well done. Like there's nary a matte line to be seen. There's like reflections on the table of the glass jar, but then there's also reflections on the glass jar in front of the people in them. So it's like they've been.
You can see Dr. Pretorius like morphing like through the back of the glass.
Yeah, so
it's the same people are in. They used a combination of full-size jars to keep the full-size actors in, and then mixed them with the tiny jars on the set.
The best visual effects are always a combination of like multiple things between every shot, so you can't quite pin down how they're doing it, I think. I don't know if you watch the Corridor Crew YouTube channel.
Yeah, occasionally. They just uploaded Steamboat Willie unedited.
Oh, really? Of course. As a bit, I assume. But they talked about this scene on one of their videos, and they're always the people who are like going in like into a pixel. I'm like, oh, that pixel's like the wrong shade of green. Like, I know how this was done. And this, they're like, who knows? Like, it's so, because it's all, also because it's all like optical effects, it's like, if once you know After Effects and like, Blender and things, like once you understand how like computer generated effects work, I think it's kind of easier to find the seams in those.
Hmm.
Whereas optical things are usually, it's like such a weird combination of like, we used a mirror here, and then this is forced perspective, and then that's a matte, and that's a multiple exposure, and we combined them all together. But there's so little here that is like, oh, I see where that's like that, like a different camera plate that they like cut out.
Hmm.
It's all very seamless and very polished.
There are a couple parts where you can see like slightly rough rotoscoping around the little people, but for the most part, it looks really good.
Yeah, like if this movie was released in like 1965, I would still be like, that's good effects.
Yeah, yeah.
He mixes little people and talks about ushering in a new age of gods and monsters, which is where the line comes from. That's what Russell Crowe says in the Dark Universe Mummy movie.
Oh man.
Which I don't understand why they didn't make Van Helsing the like Nick Fury character in that. We don't need to talk about the 2015 Mummy movie for that long.
Again.
I'm gonna keep bringing it up.
The Dark Universe is a very good punchline.
It is. Also, I find that movie kind of fascinating for how terrible it is. But so Dr. Pretorius's sort of mad scheme is that he wants to create like a whole race of like man-made people. Dr. Frankenstein is not. He's like, I think that's probably a bad idea.
See Exhibit A.
Yeah. And Dr. Pretorius is like, you made a man. I think we should make a woman and then see what happens. And I'm like, Pretorius is kind of a perv, huh? But so there's that plot that's happening of like Pretorius and Frankenstein are sort of having their like philosophical debates over the nature of science and creation. Meanwhile, the creature, who
Frankenstein the monster.
yeah, is on the run, and there's a scene from the book where he saves a drowning woman who fell into a lake, and then immediately gets shot because someone sees him and it's like a monster. They catch the monster and he gets chained up in a dungeon and then like immediately breaks out. Like they close the door and he like smashes out of the door. And looking for a place to hide, he runs into a little shack where he meets a blind man who, being blind, doesn't see that he is like a creature. And this is kind of like one of the big set pieces of this movie, and like a huge part of the book is the creature like learning to speak and like learning some of his humanity from like meet in the book. It's like a whole family that he is like spying on for months and months and months and like learning to speak from, and then eventually he talks to just the dad who's blind. They make it just a blind hermit who lives alone, and he's like, I don't have any friends, like come on in, like sure, sit by the fire, have a cigar.
Yeah, and like it's this kind of, the blind man feels ostracized for his for his disability, and he kind of surmises that the monster is mute, and so he's trying to like build communication and trust between the two of them, because this like very innocent guy is not judging our monster like everyone else does.
This is like the first character to treat the monster with any modicum of like respect or humanity, of like come sit, have food.
Yeah.
And it is fairly like it tugs the heartstrings a little bit of just like how reluctant the monster is to be like, he's like ready to smash this guy, and it's like, oh, like I can sit, and then he learns to say friend, which
Friend.
feels like such a one of those things where I'm like, that's such a like pop culture punchline almost, of like someone going friend, and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's like this movie is the origin of that.
Right. And he soon, as we talked about earlier, he soon learns a couple other words, which are smoke, drink,
good.
Good. Yeah, he offers him like whiskey or whatever. He's like, I like whiskey.
Yeah. I think Boris Karloff is very good in these scenes of playing the kind of the more lighthearted scenes in this. but it's kind of a victim of like it's been parodied so much in like Young Frankenstein and cartoons and things that like having a guy who looks like Boris Karloff Frankenstein monster smoking a cigar and saying like smoke good in that voice is like it can't not be silly. Like you can't.
I think it always was. It must have been.
I think it always was, but I think it's additionally extra silly now because we've had so many decades of like pop culture riffs on it.
Like in the original Frankenstein, he is scary, and in this, he's a cutie patootie. He's just like he's just going around being a nice, cute boy.
He kills more people in this movie than in the first one, though.
But it's not unjustified, right?
Well, this is another thing.
It's all in retaliation.
I think this movie is using the book as a good reference point. Is that in the book, the creature is both very sympathetic and is very tragic, and it is also terrifying because it's like initially it's like, oh, it's everyone disowns, everyone treats him like a monster because they're afraid of him and how he looks, and then basically what happens in this movie plays out where like he makes a single friend and learns to speak, and then other people show up and also immediately reject him, and that one sort of like tether to humanity is severed, and then he kind of goes off the deep end. And in the book he becomes a like supervillain mastermind who is like framing Frankenstein for murder and things like that. In this he kind of is more of a kind of lumbering, grunting sort of like fire bad. He does say that also. He doesn't ever get to speak like full sentences like he does in the book. I like how this movie is trying to both make him like sweeter and nicer in some scenes and also kind of more threatening and scarier in others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is. They maybe lean a bit more into the funny stuff. And so he gets chased away from the old hermit's house by some hunters, and goes to hide in a crypt, where coincidentally Dr. Pretorius is having a picnic, because he's looking for more sort of corpses for Dr. Frankenstein to experiment on.
And then he's like, "Oh, it's you. Welcome."
But before he's like there with his goons, right? And he's like, "Yeah, like dig up these bodies, take them away." And then like, "Are you coming also, sir?" And like, "No, I'm gonna stay down here and have a sandwich and like light some candles."
I like to chill in a crypt.
And yeah, he's like having a full on like picnic with a bunch of bones, and then he sees the creature and it's like, "You want a cigar? You want some wine?" And so then Pretorius is able to sell the creature on the idea of like making a bride for him, which is another thing from the book. I don't want to keep hashing on that, but that is also like it's a pretty small section in the book where it's like the creature is like, "Make me a woman." In this, it's they give that idea to Pretorius. Pretorius is a good sort of like external villain that they're able to kind of put all of the. He probably drives the plot more than any other character in this, but it's like,
yeah,
he's the one who kind of comes up with all the bad ideas. He's like he's the only character in this that is a like straight up like overt villain kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he gets the creature to kidnap Elizabeth Frankenstein, and thus forcing the doctor's hand. I like the scene where Pretorius and the creature both confront Dr. Frankenstein, and there's a bit of kind of like, I don't know, there's that tension of like, oh no, this guy's back, I don't want to talk to him, and then it's like, oh, he can talk now. And so then the kind of the whole like back third of this movie almost is like going back to the old castle lab, like going to the old set, like turn on all the old electrical equipment,
blow off the dust, and make a lady this time.
This section is very cool because there is a bit of that like sequel thing of like, oh, it's the set from the first movie. Oh, cool. But then they're doing all like weird,
and they're like, the band's back together.
Yeah,
like, we're like Dr. Frankenstein is kind of getting into it again.
Right. This is when he's actually cooking. Right. It's like you can see the excitement in his eyes of like he loves doing mad science. So he's in his element.
I missed this.
Yeah. And then Dwight Fry is in this again as a different like weirdo guy. Right? He plays Fritz the assistant in the first one, and in this he plays Carl, who's just like a different henchman guy. Like he's Pretorius's henchman, not Frankenstein's henchman. But I thought it was funny that like they cast the same actor of just like, and I was like, wait, is that Fritz or is that a different guy? Different guy.
He's good at it. He's good at being a henchman.
Yeah. There's like even more like weird electrical Tesla coil equipment in this and like things that spark.
Yeah.
Lots of Dutch angles, which is fun. There's a whole section of like doing science experiments where they're using a heartbeat. They're like getting a heart to beat with electrical current, and that's kind of acting as the score to the scene.
That was
which I
really
thought was very cool. And that's like feels very I don't know, kind of ahead of its time to me, of like using kind of a diegetic sound effect kind of as score for the scene.
And I think notable is that maybe this is a kind of post-code concession, was that they don't actually show the heart, right? They kind of talk about it and it's just off frame.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know if it seems like they felt like they would have a hard time getting away with showing like a beating human heart in on a film.
Yeah.
In 35.
But so they make they use the corpses of recently deceased people, and by that I mean someone that Carl murders. They send Carl out to murder a woman to use the body of. But they grow the brain from scratch. That's like Pretorius grows the brain. He handles that side of things. I guess he can grow a full-size brain. He's figured that much out. And then they make a bride. They make a woman Frankenstein creature with the big hair.
The iconic,
right, and that's
shock of hair.
Yeah, and then the movie ends like 2 minutes later.
Yeah, like, I was surprised. I think how little Bride of Frankenstein.
I had probably seen almost her entire screen time in just like clips from this movie that I'd already seen. Like,
yeah,
she is in this movie shockingly small amount of time. It's like, so they bring the bride to life, and then male monster is like, woman, for me, friend. And she screams and is upset. And he's like, she hate me, I ugly, no. And so then he blows up the lab with the bride and with Pretorius in it after saying, we belong dead. Which is a good line. Like, that is a great... There's also a line he has earlier when he's in the crypt where he's like, he says something about it's like he preferred being dead, like being alive is pain and agony constantly. And I was like, that's heavy. Like, that's...
Yeah.
I think Boris Karloff is very good in those moments where he's like really kind of showing pathos. And
he lets Frankenstein go. He kind of
like,
realizes...
you live.
He realizes that, like, you know, Frankenstein's
you
trying
stay,
to do the
I
right
go,
thing.
no following.
Yes.
And then it's right. The lab blows up, and Henry and Elizabeth Frankenstein get out, and then it's like hard cut to credits. Like, there is no... I feel like old movies do this a lot, where it's like, nope, that's the end. There is zero like epilogue or sort of like falling action.
I like that, honestly. Like, there are a lot of modern movies where I'm like, okay, story's over. And
also, this movie is like 75 minutes long. This movie is like very brisk. It gets in, it does its thing, it gets out. I do like that about it.
I saw this at Alamo, and I was getting my check before I even saw the bride, and I was like, oh, this movie's short.
Yeah. It is pretty nuts how little bride there is in this movie, because it is such an iconic image, right? Like, the Jack Pierce did the makeup again for this movie and designed the whole thing. Apparently the iconic hair is based on Nefertiti, like an Egyptian like hair / like headdress shape, which looking at it makes sense, but I probably wouldn't have thought of. I see it as just like, oh yeah, it's the Bride of Frankenstein here.
Right.
It's got the lightning bolts on it. It's a beehive.
she's got a big kind of like xenomorph kind of thing going on,
Well,
but
it's
with
more
a shock of white hair going through it.
it's less of a beehive than I thought it was. I feel like it's in parodies it's usually more of a beehive shape, and this it is more of a kind of like Egyptian, like it's more cylindrical, I guess, if that makes
Right.
sense. Also, Lancaster doesn't get a lot to do really. She gets like one very short scene where she like comes to life and then screams and then gets exploded.
Yeah, as we all do, right?
Yeah. Else is there to life?
Become alive, scream, explode.
I forget who wrote it, but one of my favorite letterboxed reviews of I checked the letterboxed reviews of this after I watched it. One of them is this is about a a lesbian and a gay man who get set up on a blind date and hate each other.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but I like that read of this movie.
Gay Frankenstein confirmed.
I don't necessarily know if this movie has a huge clear thesis other than just like don't make Frankenstein monsters. Like don't do it. You did it once, it was a bad idea. Don't do it a second time.
Right.
Either.
Yeah. It's fun. This movie is fun.
But I think the especially Dr. Frankenstein, Henry Frankenstein, as his name is in the movie, and Boris Karloff are both they're like character stuff I thought was very good in this movie. It was like it felt like a natural progression of what they did in the first one. It didn't feel forced, and it felt like they were enriching the characters that they had played already by having more things happen to them.
True. Yeah.
I feel like this movie has a long like cultural shadow. I don't know, it's lots of things that I had previously associated with like Frankenstein stuff. I didn't realize came from this movie and not some other things. So
right. Yeah. Like him talking in broken English and
right. Yeah, cuz like he doesn't do any of that in the first one. I thought that was almost like sort of like the way that Igor like doesn't exist. Like he's either Fritz the hunchback or he's Igor the other guy who isn't a hunchback.
Yeah.
I thought the sort of like the Frankenstein speech thing was more of that kind of like weird mishmash of like different things. But no, it's just like verbatim from this movie.